Maybe closest to Lisa.
Well, we're going to mix it up. We'll mix it up.
They're mixing it up, Joyce.
Oh, I'm the last.
There's an interesting story alphabetical, but you haven't got time for me to tell you, so I'll tell you later.
I'll just check on something. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll ask you to take your seats, please. This evening's event is about to begin. All right, just before we start, we'll call upon Chris to open the evening formally for us with a karakia.
Tēnā tātou te whare, tēnā hoki koutou e mātakitaki mai ana mā runga i te rorohiko nei. Ka tūohu tēnei ki oku whanaunga o te pirirākau o Ngāti Taka i runga i te whakaaro kaore tēnei uri o Ngai Tamarawa ho te tuku mihi mana whenua, he anō, he mihi a ngā kau anō mātou o te kaunihira. Good evening, everyone. My job here tonight is just to open our kaupapa with a brief karakia, but I just wanted to say firsthand, it's not my place as someone who's not from this rohe to mihi to you, so I just want to acknowledge our hapu of te pirirākau e Ngāti Taka before having karakia. Hoi anō, kei noe tātou, me karakia tātou. Tukua te wairua kia rere ki ngā taumata, hei arahi i a tātou mahi i tēnei rangi, kia whai i ngā mahi o a rātou mā kua ngaro atu, kia mau, kia ita, kia kore ai e ngaro, kia pūpuri, kia whakamaua, kia tīna. Haumi e hui e, tā ki e. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora, Chris. Tēnā koutou katoa, and welcome to tonight's Meet the Candidates debate for our Kaimai candidates. Greetings to everyone who's joined us here in person, and we also have people following us via the live stream. These debates are proudly hosted by Western Bay of Plenty District Council, and they're an opportunity for you, our district's residents, to learn more about the candidates standing in this year's local government elections. This is the Council's first ever debate series. We've had one debate before this last night, which was fabulous in Katikati. And it's a great opportunity for you to take part in democracy in action and to meet the people who've bravely put themselves forward to represent you and to hear what they have to say about a range of topics. Ko Lisa Glass, taku ingoa. I'm a civil defence professional, full-time civil defence emergency manager, and I used to be a journalist for my sins. And I'm going to be emceeing the evening tonight. We've got a series of prepared questions. But before we go through those and introduce the candidates, I just briefly want to run you through the health and safety for this location here at Pahoia School. So through the doors you came, if you need the bathrooms, look for the signs, boys and girls, because we are at a primary school. If there is a fire alarm, please evacuate calmly through the doors you came in or the door behind you onto the school parking lot, just away from the buildings. I'm sure everything will be fine though. Right. Oh, and just one thing, for those of you online, there will be an opportunity to get involved at intermission time where you'll be able to vote for a question to ask the candidates, so we'll tell you about that soon. But Without further ado, here are your candidates. Starting from the far end, we have Swari Borrell. Kia ora. Next to Swari is Tracy Coxhead. Kia ora, Tracy.
Kia ora.
Next to Tracy, Matthew Farrell. Kia ora, Matthew.
Kia ora, Lisa.
Murray Granger. Kia ora, Murray. Margaret Murray Benge.
Hi everyone.
Matua Parkinson. Kia ora, Matua. And Don Thwaites.
Kia ora, Lisa.
We also have with us this evening the three candidates for the Bay of Plenty Regional Council, Jane Nees, Sean Newland and Ken Shirley. And the three of them will give you a brief chat later in the evening just to let you know about themselves. So obviously there are several different elections running at the moment, Bay of Plenty, Western Bay of Plenty District and Bay of Plenty Regional, and those three are your regional council candidates. Right, here's how it's going to go this evening. Shortly we're going to move into a section called Getting to Know the Candidates. Each candidate will have just 1 minute, and we will be strict tonight. We're a little bit lax last night because it was our first night and we're in Karikare and they're a bit chill, but we're going to be a bit strict tonight. 1 minute to talk about why you're standing for council, something about yourself as a person, you know, what brings you here. Next up, we'll have a section called Your Take on the District. We'll be asking 4 questions on important matters that affect residents now and into the future. These won't be the same questions as last night. Some of them may, we'll see. And then we'll move, are you good? Then we'll move on to a brief intermission, just a chance to stretch your legs while our regional council candidates speak to you. During that time, you'll be able to vote on the theme for the next question that we'll ask our candidates, which is themed Imagine If. So there are 4 topics which are hypotheticals that you can vote on, something you would most like to hear our candidates discuss. If you have a look on your chairs, there's a piece of yellow paper. It's got information about how to vote for those questions. You can either go through the QR code or you can go on a website called slido.com and enter the code number which is on there, 206 4022. If you're watching at home, voting is already open for that question, so you can go ahead and vote now if you'd like to. And then we'll finish the evening with a bit more of a quickfire round, yes or no only questions, which all the candidates will be asking on a range of relevant issues. Right, that's a lot of talking from me, so I'm going to stop now, let you listen to the people you're actually here to hear from. We're going to be starting down the end. Just check, Madam Clock, you good? Right, there will be an alarm sound at the end and we will be quite strict about cutting you off. So finish your sentence, but no more. And none of those tricky long sentences. Right, one minute to speak, starting with you when you're ready, Swari.
Kia ora, Tulawhalawa. I'm a business owner, ratepayer, valued family member, attended Whakamarama primary school. My family have been in Whakamarama for 130 years. I run a research and evaluation consultancy from Ross Road, and I have the skills. My job essentially entails advising governments on their strategy and planning, their procurement and their service delivery. So I don't need the job needs me, and I'm willing to do it.
31 seconds, but she spoke quite fast. She got it all in there, well done. Okay. Next up, thank you, Tracy.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Tracy Coxhead, and nobody's more surprised than me that I'm sitting here at this point. I've always been interested in politics, international and obviously New Zealand politics, and never really saw myself getting involved here, but the more I got interested with everything going on recently, in the last couple of years particularly, a very good friend of mine suggested to me I look into what was involved with local politics, and she was right, there's so much you can do there to make a difference. And that's what I really would like to do, is make a difference in the community. I come from a financial background. I'm a financial planner, investment advisor. I've been a senior management in banking, and I bring financial skills, but I'm also a grandmother, and I care a lot about, family and children. So yeah, I think I bring a broad range of skills to the role too. Thank you.
You people. You people are pros. That was perfectly timed as well. Okay, Matthew, when you're ready.
Greetings everyone, thank you all for attending. First of all, obviously we know the turnout should be higher, looking around the room. We all know more people should be getting informed and voting. I'd like you all to take the message home to your neighbours who aren't here. I think council succeeds when the community is happy, engaged and participating. So the platform I stand on is community and common sense. We should inform, we should ask, we should listen, we should do. To me, council has to manage a lot of top-down government directives and deliver on policy changes in housing density, whatever Three Waters model ends up being implemented, whether it's an enduring change or repealed. I think the overall tax and rate take discrepancy is huge, and councils need at least GST back on rates to help our ratepayers without hurting them anymore. I believe value for council is empowering volunteers and community initiatives, whether it's Abbeyfield type housing models or whether it's youth pathway to employment ventures, sustainable food aid, pest control, other environmental projects. I believe council can support all of these for improved well-being on many levels. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. And Murray, when you're ready.
Thank you, Lisa. Good evening, all. Well, my name is Murray Granger, and I've lived in Amakoroa with my wife for 10 years. First got involved in local body issues when the then council decided they wanted to sell reserve land in Amakoroa, and myself and Peter Presland, who's here tonight, and another chap who no longer lives in Amakoroa, got together with the Amakoroa residents and said, no, we're not having any of that. Thank you very much. And the council then backed off. So that got me involved in local body politics. I then served 3 years as community board chair for the Amakoroa Community Board and have spent 3 years as a councillor and have tremendously enjoyed that and consider it a privilege to serve the community, which I enjoy doing, and looking after them as much as I can and doing what I can for them. And I seek your support to return to that seat. Thank you.
Geez, this clock is really working, isn't it? Margaret, when you're ready.
Good evening. My name's Margaret Murray-Benj. I've been living in the Bay of Plenty for the last 20 years. 10 years of those were on the banks of the Ngāmuahini River. I now live in Bethlehem, which is just outside of the district, but I'm closer to everybody than I've ever been. I first started in local government, and because it's a people place, and one of the great privileges one has in life is being able to represent people, understand the issues that they have, and work with them to resolve them to the best of one's ability. And so tonight, for example, Norm Brunning and Joe Gravitt are here, and we three were on the little committee from Western Bay that shifted the hall from Wainui South here to Pahoia. And this is the first time I've actually been in the hall. We didn't get invited to the opening, but it's a good example of what you can do when we all work together. And that's the philosophy that I have, and that's the philosophy that I will continue with. We've seen people do so much good. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Matua, when you're ready.
Ka tira kia ora tātou katoa, tēnei te mihi tūtai ki te atua ki runga rawa, nāna nei ngā mea katoa, ko te tīmatanga, ara ko te whakamutunga o ngā mea katoa. Kia ora koutou, thank you for the invitation to come to speak tonight. It is well known that council, or the lack of diversity on the council, is prominent, so that's why I put my name forward. It is no longer, or it is time now that you put your name forward and get on the boards rather than sit on the sidelines and complain. I am formerly of a professional rugby player, so that used to be my job. My job now is to look after my family and also represent my community on the board. I live in Te Puna, Okemoke, Ngāmihi.
And last but not least, Don.
Thanks, Lisa. Kia ora, everyone. My name's Don Thwaites. The Western Bay of Plenty's been my home for the last 50 years. I completed my primary schooling at Te Puna Primary School, attended Otamoto College, and then gained a degree in accounting and finance at Massey University. From there, life changed a little bit, and kiwifruit's predominantly been my occupation for the last 30-something years, 35 years. I am a 4.5 term councillor on the Western Bay of Plenty. I was elected on the elevation of Ross Patterson, I see here tonight, when he became mayor, and the passing of Graham Weld. I got elected at a by-election then and have served the last 4 terms. Last 3 terms I've served as a committee chair of one of the major core infrastructure committees on council, have a long term. I admitted that I've been married to Caroline for 35 years. We have 3 children. The eldest is a professional rugby player, middle one's a dairy farmer, and the youngest is the creative one in the family. She's a jeweller by trade. I'm also standing for mayor, but I'm not allowed to talk about that tonight. You'll have to tune in on Thursday for that, and Lisa's going to cut me off. Oh.
I think they deserve a round of applause. Fantastic to see such a diverse range of experience, opinions and ideas already coming through, so thank you all very much for that. And now that we have got to know you just a little bit better, it's time to ask some questions that have been submitted by the community with your take on them. So you'll each have exactly 2 minutes to respond before we move to the next candidate. Now there are quite a few of you, and I'm going to mix up who goes first because we have found that when people get to the end of some of these questions, there's not a lot of stuff to say, and we don't want you making up rubbish. So I'll start with Murray in the first instance, and we'll go down to Soiree, and then we'll come back to Don, right along ending on Margaret. Margaret, the next question I will start with you, and we'll come back the other way. Right. Now, we will have a timer for the 2 minutes, and I will give you a 30-second warning when you're at 1:30. All right. First question is from Rosie Marriott. So Rosie, if you're here, if you're watching, thank you very much for taking the time to submit a question. Rosie's question is, starting with you, Murray, what is your view about council tenders for goods and services? Should local always be supported, or should tenders be awarded to the cheapest? Good question.
The others all get several minutes to think about their answer for this one.
I'm writing real fast.
I've got 30 seconds. Right. Should we support local? Whenever we can, we should. Obviously, there are conditions around that. There are things that we are prevented from doing under legislation, but if we can support a local candidate and they are capable and able to do the job, then we should. As for whether we should always use the cheapest, that then becomes a question for the ratepayers to think about, because if we don't use the cheapest, then the rates, there is an impact on the rates. But we should also be looking for the best quality outcomes. And I think that's all I need to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving along to Matthew. Would you like me to read the question again, or are you okay?
I'm good to go, thank you. So, as long as council's getting zoning and infrastructure right so we can live, work and play in a connected community, that should also provide employment opportunities for all ages. Bang for buck is important, but I think we do also need to have some consideration for where local firms can be supported for contracts to pay their staff to get a circular economy going, with the obvious sort of City Council and Western Bay of Plenty District Council crossover. You know, if you can support a firm locally, then that spreads out, and the more local you can support, the more you get that spread and the more you benefit from that economy. But obviously, it may be preferable to, for example, support a contractor in the Whakatane district than Auckland, or it may just come down to numbers. I think the sensible thing to do is try and strike the right balance between value for money for ratepayers and benefit to our rohi. Thank you, that's enough.
Thank you. I'll just repeat the question, and this is for Tracy. What is your view about council tenders for goods and services, local always or always the cheapest?
Well, I don't believe in always the cheapest. I think you get what you pay for. In terms of the tender process, given that I'm not a sitting councillor, I'm not entirely sure what the tender process is in this council. I presume it's closed tender given by a certain date with a timeline. They're all opened with more than one person present, etc. I guess the key thing is to avoid nepotism in a local market. Yes, preferably local would be great. But I do believe there should be, if there's not, a list of criteria and a scoring system potentially for tenders, So yeah, I don't believe in cheap is first. Local would be great, but yeah, maybe you get more points for being local. But I do believe that the quality is more important than the cost, because long term you're going to save money by, taking the right contractor on board or the right provider. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love this question. It relates directly to the work that I do as someone who evaluates government services. So I take a broad view of the way that local government undertake services like this. So I understand, again, speaking into the space of the council is responsible for three key components in the role that they have: strategy and planning, procurement and service delivery. Part of the plan at council, part of the plan has to be to ensure that you are building local capacity to undertake the work. I absolutely support local dollars and local pockets staying in our community. We know from the research that once the dollars go out of the community, they take another 7 years to come back in. So I think we have to take a broad view of how that happens and ensure that we're both building the capacity for local delivery of those services, and then have the mechanisms within council to ensure that those are delivering high quality services. Absolutely back the previous speaker's concept of quality over cost.
Kia ora. Don.
Being a sitting councillor, I can speak a little bit about what we actually do at council. Take the roading contract, for instance. We had a long-term initial contract, and the savings on that over the previous system, where we used to rush out and do potholes and all the rest, delivered the first 100 k's of rural seal in this district. We've now sealed under that contract and the subsequent contract, both long-term 7 to 9 year contracts, another 50 k's. So we've sealed 160 kilometres from those savings, only leaving 150 kilometres left, so that's been significant. Our waters contract is shared with Tauranga cities. Downers do that. They might appear at your place in the morning and then at a Tauranga address in the afternoon, so there's real economies of scale from that. Our reserve contracts are, again, big contracts. That mower you see on the road that slows you down occasionally, the downers and that, because they've got long-term contracts, have been able to invest in significant plant and machinery and get the economies of scale. So leading on from that, we also work in BOPLAS with the other councils of the Bay of Plenty. We've made big savings on group insurance and other aspects we buy through that. So, we don't rush out to tender every year or anything like that. We enter into long-term partnerships with these contractors. Our staff are just in managerial roles, unless do you want to cut me off? Or,
No, you keep going.
Okay, carry on, I can keep talking. So, our staff are all about managing the contracts. They're not out there frequently assessing contracts. We do have a major crunch coming in 20 months' time. We have just extended the long-term roading contract. We've got the last year and a half of that to the good times. Sadly, we're going to face the inflationary impacts, and it's going to all affect us as ratepayers. But by, again, perhaps setting another long-term contract, there's swings and roundabouts there. Another danger is there's less
Now
and
I'm
less
gonna cut you
contract.
off.
Now you're going to cut me off, okay? You got me on a roll. Thanks.
Thank you. Matua, are you happy to answer, or would you like the question again? Okay.
The question, I guess, what comes to mind is local for local in regards to let's keep the money in the local socio-economic environment. Therefore, we see not only more in our pockets, but people out there going, buying local, shopping local, keeping the local equity market up and still running. Obviously, we've got to balance that with who's the best for the job at the right time and the right priorities. I like listening to Don Thwaites here, very good talker, and he speaks a lot of sense. Unfortunately, sometimes I've had conversations with him and he hasn't spoken a lot of sense, but this particular occasion I agree with him. But like all the other previous speakers, I guess that we're here for the people and we've got to listen to what the people say, but sometimes we need to be talking to the people and explaining to some of our people and our constituents out there that there are things that can't be, and there's a long-term forecast that's already been set in place, and unfortunately that can't be changed within 3 years. Just like today, I look out amongst you beautiful people in the crowd, and there's a lot of people from a separate part of our community, and we're not well represented in other parts of our community, which is unfortunate. But nō reira te whānau, kia ora.
Kia ora. And
It
maybe
was
last.
talking about rugby when we disagreed, not council, eh, Matua?
Correct.
I'm not talking about roading, about rugby, I'm talking about roading. When the Eastern Arterial was built, the contractor wanted to do the maintenance, missed out on it, and that was the time, under Ross Patterson, when we got a really good deal for our roading budget. And we got that deal and it was extended. It has served us well. We now find, for example, that Swaps, local firm just over the hill, are coming in and improving their performance, and so it's really great to see a local company coming in and providing that service. We don't have a magic amount of money, it's your money that we're working with, and so you need value for money. We need places where we can provide work for people, and that's one of the areas where zoning comes in. And tenders are something that happens for everything that we do. It's not the cheapest price, it is the best value that we can get for every ratepayer in our district. And I stand by the fact that we will always go for what is the best quality, be it local or international or the rest of New Zealand. We need to deliver a service that you can be proud of and for the best value. Thank you.
Thank you all for those very thoughtful and well-considered answers. I'm sure the audience appreciated it very much. What we're going to do now is, I've got another question which I'll read shortly, but I'll just give you a heads up how we're going to do it. Margaret, we will start with you first, seeing as you were last this time. Then we will move down Matua, Don, Suari, ending on Murray. So same rules, 2 minutes. Look, you've been magnificent with your internal clocks. You must wake up before the alarm every morning because you're wonderful.
We've been thinking of you, Lisa.
So this question has been submitted by Chris Diva. Thank you, Chris, for this. It's quite a long one, so I'll read it slowly and do ask me if you'd like me to repeat it. Omokoroa has had lots of money spent, mostly by developers, on new curb, channel and street lighting. Meanwhile, the original village has had almost nothing, a playground for the children of the new end. What is the plan to invest in improving street lighting and curb, channel and footpaths in the older parts of the town?
Well, if you're in other parts of the district, you'll be saying council spends far too much money in Omokoroa, but that is an area where Smart Growth decided about 2008 that 12,000 people would live in Omokoroa. It's now up to 13,000, and you know what the road is like getting into town. That's really more important to the people even than the lights are, replacing lights or improving lights. But however, I must say that on Omokoroa Road, the lighting to get into Omokoroa is better than it was, and it's underground. And I stood by that argument and fought for it as hard as I knew how, and Raj was able to go out and find the money. As a council, we had decided that we weren't going to do it. So there was one thing where lighting was fundamentally important. You can't have developers going out and telling them they've got to underground everything else, and then council come in with a second-grade system. You'll notice that the roading network is working its way around towards Harbour Road, Harbourview Road, and there, of course, when it's needed, when the time has come, of course we'll have the maintenance challenge to actually upgrade whatever needs to be done. But maintenance is something the council's proud of doing. It has a standard and it stands by it, and we're not ignoring it. It's just you expect lighting to last a significant period of time. You don't replace it every other week. And so I think we're doing quite well in that demand, and we are investing in the future of the children of this district.
Thank you. Matua, would you like me to repeat the
Could
question?
you read that question
Yeah,
again? 'Cause I got lost
absolutely.
in the lighting.
Omokoroa has had lots of money spent, mostly by developers, on new curb, channel and street lighting. Meanwhile, the original village has had almost nothing, a playground for the children of the new end. What is the plan to invest in improving street lighting and curb, channel and footpaths in the older parts of the town?
Great question. Okay, so I can't speak for Omokoroa because I'm not from Omokoroa, but I do live in Te Puna. Okemoke Road is where I live, and I can ask the same question about Okemoke Road to the councillors here this evening. I don't think that there has been enough in around the infrastructure around lighting, around footpaths, because they've put in a footpath which is for cyclists. And down into Puna, there's no cycleway down Lockhead Road or Okamoke Road, but there are cyclists that come through there every day. In regards to lighting, there's one street light on our road, and that's on the corner of Lockhead Road. There's nothing on Okamoke Road. There's nothing on the rest of Lockhead Road until you get to the corner at Pitau Road and Lockhead Road. All I can say is I'm asking the same question because I'm up here with the rest of the general public. I don't have an answer for you, I'm not going to lie, and I'm not going to sit up here and quote something I know nothing about. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Dawn, please.
I have to declare a slight interest here because Chris is a regular attendee of the Omokoroa Community Board, which I attended with Murray, and Murray's smirking down there because Chris actually came along to our final community board and asked this exact question. So I actually heard it a month ago, so I declare that. So here we go. It's just, Chris is a good walker. He gets up at 5 a.m. and likes to walk around town, and he tells us where any dark parts are. Actually, he's toned his question down a lot because I chewed back at him a fair bit and I said, go live where Jane Nees lives, up Pies Pa. Go live in the back of Welcome Bay and see the investment going to those other parts of the Kaimai ward. I said, Omokoroa's done pretty well, Chris, and I was shaking my hand at him, so he toned his question down. But I take his point. You know, each of our urban centres do get an allocation from the roading rate, and it's the Omokoroa community, it's the community board rate. Tipuki get it, Makatu get it, Katikati get it, Waihi Beach get it, and so does Omokoroa. So it'll be up to the new community board, and Chris will have to get on board once the new mayor's elected and selects who he's going to put on that community board with the 4 who get elected. And Chris is going to have to chew their ear. They get $1 million a year, how that's spent. We've done things like put the access across the railway line. We've curbed and channeled some of the other parts, the older parts down by the golf course that aren't the new development. You know, they were developed 25, 30 years ago. So point taken, Chris. Lighting is handled district-wide. We are changing to the LED lights that save power in these energy-conscious times. There has proved to be some dark spots, and I'm hearing whispers in the background. So, you know, Murray's heard this question as well a month ago, so he's going to give it a better answer than me. Cheers.
Thank you. Soare, would you like the question again, or are you okay?
I'm okay, thanks. I have 2 very personal experiences and speak to them into this issue. So the lighting sucks in Omokoroa. 130 years my family have lived at 36 Ross Road in Whakamarama. I remember when all you could see was the light on the wharf. I have talked about what that meant. So for as a Whakamarama resident, the lighting is an issue, but that's purely from an aesthetic perspective because now all we see is a sea of orange in Omokoroa. In terms of what the council's role is in that, so all assets where, we expect the councillors to make decisions about whether they replace or whether they renew things, I would again take and advise a balanced investment approach to ensure that we are meeting the services and the infrastructure that we need for the future, but also making sure that we preserve our heritage places. As I said, 130 years in Ross Road, we need those places and we need to ensure that the money is going to our older, more traditional places as well. The other thing I'll say about the footpaths and the curbs is they took away my fijoas, which I live off and live for and love along the main road there. But am I enjoying driving there without a treacherous road? Yes, I am. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Tracy, when you're ready.
Right, so presumably the properties with the perfect curbing have also had a contribution from the development or the developers. So I would imagine there's a little bit of an imbalance there in terms of funding. Look, there's not an endless amount of money, and so I understand why maintenance does get deferred. But my question would be, how is that affecting the businesses that are actually suffering with this? Is this an issue for them? I mean, is it dangerous? Is it a health and safety issue? Is this for someone, let's say, in a wheelchair? Is this a problem? So how big a problem is it? And how much is it going to cost to solve it? So I'll give you an example, and this is, there's the Four Square in Bethlehem where I stop to get things, often. And for a very long time, I know this isn't in this region, for a very long time though, they had massive potholes in all the car parks, and honestly, it just in the end it put me off going, because it was actually, twice I twisted my ankle getting out of the car. So is it that serious? And if it is, yes, it definitely needs addressing.
Kia ora. Matthew.
I would say to Chris, it's not just money on roads that's been spent, say, north of the railway line. The council's recently put in a new library there as an interim library, and that means that Western Avenue is currently being upgraded from a rural road to an urban standard. Another cost that's going to be ahead for the council in future years is deciding where's that civic centre, or whatever it's going to be, and whatever it looks like and whatever it has, where's that going to land in Mokoroa? And that's going to come at a cost, whether it's in 5, 10 or 15 years. Maintenance upkeep across the ward is a question of priorities. It's a valid question, but I think you've got to have balance. I agree with a lot of what Soare said, actually. With regard to rates, inflation is going to have a big impact on project costs going forward. Affordability hurts people on fixed incomes. It has enabled us to have consented, water standards, for example. The question is, what will people accept going forwards in terms of service provision? Planned infrastructure, future debt to continue to be compliant, keep safe communities, roads that are fit for purpose, footpaths you can walk on, push a baby buggy, mobility scooter users. We've got people complaining about Wright Road in Ongateti, Ainsworth Road in Tapuna, Youngstown Road in Whakamarama. You've got to balance all these competing demands. Someone's got to rise to the top sometime. That project gets dealt with, and it's got to be on a cost-benefit analysis, and it can't just be my turn at the trough or whatever for someone in a particular street. You've got to take a ward-based approach when you're in a ward role, and you've got to do what's right for the whole community, even if it means you've got some unhappy people in a certain place because they think it's their turn. Sorry, Chris.
Thank you, Matthew. Should we give Murray a go? No? I'm not going to ask the question again. It sounds like you know it very well.
While I may have heard this question a month ago, I have not been chewing over it for a month, making my answer. But one thing I have learnt in council is that when you're in the chambers, the Katikati folks say all the money's being spent in Te Puke. The Te Puke folks say all the money's being spent in Katikati, and both of those people say it's all being spent in the Mokoroa. So you can't win on that one. But just to challenge Chris, in the time that I've been in the council, all the footpaths in the old area of Mokoroa have all been repaired, all the cracks taken out, whole lots of new concrete gone in, any trip hazards have been removed. That has been done. All the lights have been replaced, as Don said, with LED lights, and we accept that there are some deficiencies and little black spots because of that need to be looked at. Every park in the Mokoroa, whether it's one side of the railway line or the other side of the railway line, will get the same level of service when it comes to mowing. What else have we done? We've put, as Matthew says, curb and channel down an existing street, Western Ave, and just recently we've asked for that to be extended around Gain Place in the old area. As Don said, the two bridges went across the existing railway line for pedestrian access. So there has been a reasonable amount of money spent in old Mokoroa, in spite of what Chris thinks.
Thank you very much, everybody. We have 2 more questions in this section, and these may be familiar to you if you followed yesterday or were in attendance yesterday. What I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to start at this end with Don. I'm just going to go straight down the line, and for the 4th question, we'll do the opposite. Start at your end, Soare, and come down this way. So question 3. Do you think Council has managed its 3 waters assets appropriately over the past 30 years, and how does this compare with other councils?
Well, as I've chaired this committee for the last 9 years, I'll have to say we've managed them exceptionally well. Now, all jokes aside, I believe we have. There was an ad on TV years ago about coming to the party late gold was handed out, platinum was handed out, uranium was handed out, and we got, what did we get? Some chocolate bar, I forget now.
Pineapple lumps?
Pineapple lumps, thank you, Sawari. We got pineapple lumps. Well, that's a little bit like Western Bay, not deliberately, but we grew late, you know. New Plymouths and Napiers and Gisbornes and Palmerston Norths, they were all flourishing 50, 60, 80 years ago, and Tauranga and Western Bay of Plenty by attachment was a bit of a backwater. You know, the kiwi fruit revolution certainly changed with the fragmentation of the land and the growth. So we have come to the party late. We have installed new wastewater schemes at Omokoroa, connected to Tauranga at Makatu. The Waihi Beach scheme was put in place just before. We've done a small extension for 130 properties at Te Puna West. That's all brand new, connected to the Omokoroa wastewater pipeline, sorry. Ongari Point's received drainage help there because it's low lying. So yeah, we are up to date, we are good. It's come at a cost, and that's for sure, you know. I make no apologies, and I know the people of Katikati and Te Puke hold it against me, but I was a major driver when I first got on council that we amalgamated the pricing of and the charging of the 5 wastewater schemes and the 3 water schemes. I believe if we hadn't have done that, Western Bay would have flown to bits. The charges at Omokoroa under the original system that was set up probably would have been in excess of $1,800 now for wastewater. That was just unacceptable. They would have just mutineered and left us and joined Tauranga, in my opinion. Waihi Beach already tried to scarper off to Hauraki. So it's come at a cost, but I have to stop talking, so Matua will take over.
Thank you very much.
So it's
Matua.
come at a cost. Okay, Don. It's actually, I think what you all said there is pertinent, and it's correct. I think what we do need, though, is some input from local iwi, because there's none at the moment, there's not a lot, Don. We need to sit around the table and have robust discussions around this. You're probably all thinking why I'm saying local iwi, because local iwi have different thought patterns when it comes to water and why we need our water. And when we say our whakapapa, we always say our maunga, our water, because they're part of us. They're not just a supply source of drinking water. They're where we come from. It's part of our DNA. It's part of our wairua. So I definitely think, Don, whilst you have done well and you explained that exceptionally well, there's room for participation from local iwi within those boards. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
This is the most important issue facing us this council elections, and it is important because our assets are in good order, and we have 2 marae that we have just connected to the wastewater system, so we do work together. But I must say that we've had hundreds of people have emailed us and said, please don't give away your assets to Central, a huge entity like Entity B that this government is putting through. And so I know that the opposition is saying we will reverse it if that is the case. Why should we give away assets that our ratepayers have paid for and give them to another body who we have no control over? And this morning I met with a man who's part of the group that's challenging the government in the courts to say where is the evidence to say that putting it into a bigger body is going to be better when you take away, you don't compensate properly, and you actually don't listen, and you give it to some big body. Who on earth will care? If you take roading, for example, the decisions used to be made in Hamilton, and that was absolutely hopeless. So the thought that we're going to have our water supply decided and our 3 waters somewhere like Hamilton, give me a break. This is not somewhere that we can go down. And yes, we will work together with anybody, which is what we do. That's our job. But I will not stand by and see these assets be given away.
Thank you. We're halfway down the table, so I will just repeat the question. Murray, question is, do you think Council has managed its 3 water assets appropriately over the last 30 years, and how does this compare with other councils?
Thank you, Lisa. Yes, it has, and when you look at some of our other local councils not too far along the bay from us, they have not. They've got running on expired wastewater consents. They have not been held to account by those in authority. They've been allowed to slip through whereas we have done all the work that needs to be done to bring our water standards up, and Margaret is often telling us that when she joined the council, the water grade was E for our drinking water, and it's now well in the acceptable levels as measured by those who control these things. So we are proud of what this council has achieved in terms of its three waters. We deliver 6 billion litres of water, good quality drinking water, to this community every year. And that takes a lot of infrastructure, it takes a lot of pumps, it takes a lot of pipes, it takes a lot of treatment plants and what have you. But it is safe, good drinking water. Our sewage is treated appropriately, as is our stormwater. So we are proud. And when you think that what the Auditor General has said about the proposed water entities, he says that they are not going to be accountable to local authorities, and nor, interestingly, are they going to be accountable to central government. That's a worry, because we want local control, we want local influence and local decisions on what happens in our local area. Thank you.
Kia ora. Matthew, would you like that question again? Are you okay? Okay.
Rightio, I'll kind of turn it on its head and start with Far North's got boil water notices, Auckland's got runoff issues in heavy rain, Taranaki too. We've had deaths from Campylobacter in Havelock North, burst pipes in Wellington city streets, effluent into the harbour in Pororua, there's leachate coming through the school playing fields in Matata. We had the Environment Minister Nick Smith in 2017 with a national plan for cleaner fresh water. In Budget 2017, Anne Tolley, now at Tauranga City Council, was the local government minister with a $6 million plan for the Wellington region to have emergency water resilience. This is not a new problem. I think Western Bay Council's done well. It's come at a cost to you good people as ratepayers. Everyone else across the country now needs to come up to our level of compliance. We need drinking water for life, we need irrigation for farming, food safety for us and for exports, and we shouldn't be letting foreign companies make plastic bottles for New Zealand water and sell it back to us or to overseas. Another thing I'll say about Three Waters is that I agree reform is needed, but not this way, through Crown confiscation of assets. Sounds like 1800s activity to me. Council should be ready and willing to genuinely partner on regulatory reforms with consequences, but that's through a due process for any utility. Local voice, local input, local ownership, local decisions and control need to be respected. It is not too late for the government to see reason rather than mandate. A reminder, this outgoing council's submission on Three Waters, despite what other people might tell you, was to request from the government proposals that would be more acceptable to our community, and I think that's the common sense approach. Thank you.
Thank you. Tracy, when you're ready.
Okay, so the question was, do I think that our water assets locally are managed well? Yes, I do. I have no reason to think otherwise. I know the example is often used about Hastings and their water issues, but $80 million later, that's been sorted out. New Zealand's water quality is rated third in the world, so I don't think we have a third world issue. So, in terms of the reforms, from my point of view, there are too many layers of bureaucracy. We go from having somebody wanting to, well, a ratepayer, we have the council, then we have a tap. If we go on to the Three Waters model, we're going through another 2 steps, so there's another layer of bureaucracy. There is going to be an increase in staff from between 6,000 and 9,000 staff to set up the new entity over the next 30 years. I'm not sure where those people are coming from and at what cost. Obviously, there's a huge cost to that. And I understand there's been a commitment that nobody locally would lose their job who's already working in the water area of the council. There's not enough granular information about how this actually affects ratepayers in the pocket. So the assets are taken, the $360 million worth of assets of this council, they're taken and $75 million is paid. At what point, I understand there's a reasonable delay with that. 31 councils in 8E, we disagree with the Three Waters being taken into this 4 entities.
30 seconds.
And so for me, no, it's a no. Three Waters is definitely a no for me. Thank you.
Would you like the question again, sorry, are you okay?
Oh, no, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm of the same view as the last two speakers, and I rest that on. So often you'll have tensions between local and central government, and it's hard to rely on the goodwill of any political entity to understand the way those issues land on the ground for you. So again, speaking as a hearty whakamarama local, we pay $440 for 10,000 litres. We currently hold a capacity for 120,000 litres. When we run out in summer, it's $4,000 to refill the tanks for our farm. So I'm loving what everyone else is talking about, what they've got and how and who paid for it. But in whakamarama, so we have a very intimate, and we will have a very personal experience around how Three Waters lands. It's a hard no for me around Three Waters, because I think rushed reforms don't work for anybody, and I think there's a huge field of play here where we could fold in local solutions, local ideas and mindsets around how we can manage our water. I think as a rohe, we have done well enough, and I intend to hold that view and keep going with that. So no.
Kia ora. Round of applause, I think. Thank you all for your considered answers and for your respect of each other. It's actually really refreshing to see, isn't it? Right, not in this crowd, just in general. Right, now we have one more question in this section. We're going to start down the front. Yes, it's you, I know, that's why I'm saying it now. This is a question that you would have heard previously, so we'll just come back the other way. And the question is from Kate Sutherland, and Kate asks, how do you plan to work with and honour Te Tiriti o Waitangi?
So again, this question is often framed around how non-Māori would manifest and enact their tiritiri obligations. So obviously, as a French Māori Samoan woman, becoming and occupying the role in this council as Kaimai ward councillor and mayor would be the embodiment of a te tiriti relationship. So my practice personally and professionally is around understanding that we take the time to work with iwi entities, we take the time to work with mana whenua and acknowledge existing relationships. So, you know, communication is the key to any great relationship, regardless of what ethnicity you're working with. I attended the University of Auckland, New Zealand's premier university, and my highest formal qualification is in political science, so I absolutely have a good foundation to springboard what I think a tiriti partnership would look like in both the council ward role and the mayor role. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Okay, so I haven't had a lot of experience in dealing with the Treaty of Waitangi, but I've obviously been through everything on the website in terms of the council to understand what the principles are, and I also understand the partnership with Tauranga Moana and Te Arawa Kitai partnership. So yes, I would very much embrace that relationship and work with it. What I probably should say is I grew up in Northland in a very small community. At the time it was small. At least 50% of us were non-Māori, mostly white Kiwis. The other 50% were Māori. So I've really only ever grown up being collaborative with people in my community. And the way I see it is we have a very diverse community here. It's Māori, it's Pākehā, it's Indian, we have a lot of Southeast Asian as well. And from where I'm coming from, anybody is welcome to come and talk to me, and I will treat them all with respect and I will treat them all equally.
Kia ora. Matthew, would you like the question again, or would you like...
Good,
okay.
Okay, so with regard to the treaty, first of all, obviously council has its mandate, gains its authority from central government, from Crown, essentially a Crown agency, and has those obligations under the Local Government Act. Both the major parties in Parliament, either of which, one of which is very likely to form the basis of the government following next year's election, both have support for and agreement of principles of the treaty baked in. So essentially, the situation with tangata whenua is that there are already various groups and forums that council engages and consults with, just as they do with non-mana whenua groups, working with full cross-community interest, including our kaupapa partners, rather than excluding anyone, can only lead to better outcomes for all of us. Being fair to one another and respecting all, we're stronger. I think it comes back to all people wanting to be heard and part of decisions for all our benefit.
Kia ora.
As Matthew has said, that local government has various conditions put upon it by our legislation as to how and when and why we are to talk with Māori about whatever we're doing in terms of consultation. We are to involve them, and so that is what we do. And I think in Western Bay we do that reasonably well. We have a good team that assists us on that, led by Chris down the back, and they work really well with us. We have the two committees, as has been mentioned, working with the Māori from this part of the district and from Te Arawa down the far end of the district. But I think one of the things we need to realise is that when we talk about Māori, there are 74 hapu in our council. So that's 74 groups, and they're not all going to have exactly the same idea on any particular topic. So we have to discuss, we have to meet, we have to talk with those, and we have to listen, we have to consult. Everybody's voice is important, and so long as we are listening and we are taking on board the views of the people we have to talk to in these different hapu, then I believe that we are fulfilling and can continue to fill our obligations under the treaty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Margaret?
When I was first elected to local government, I was the second woman ever to be elected to Waimairi District Council in Christchurch. And one of the things that was important to me was Article 3 of the treaty, which made us all equal. So anyone I meet, I'm equal to them and they're equal to me. And as you've heard, we treat each other with respect, and it doesn't matter who's around the table, we can argue the toss, and you hope that they will all leave their arguments in the council chamber when we walk through the door back outside. And that's the way it should be, and it doesn't matter what ethnicity you are, it's really important that we are all equal before the law and as we participate and work together. So I feel very comfortable with it and do not have a problem. And the fact that we are Indian and multicultural now, coming from all over the world, there's 40-something different ethnicities at the Te Puke school alone. And so they don't come to New Zealand to be second-class citizens. They come here because we're a democracy. And they see us as a place where they can live and be free and to work together. And so I hold the view very strongly that we are equal. And I will never see anybody that I see as anything other than equal to me. And what their issues are, it's my job to work for them and with them. So I'm very comfortable with the treaty. To me, it works well in our society. I just don't want it to be distorted.
Kia ora. Matua, would you like the question again, or would you like to just go ahead?
No, please read that question
Okay.
again.
The question again is, how do you plan to work with and honour Te Tiriti o Waitangi?
Kia ora. So that question, Te Tiriti o Waitangi is actually different than the Treaty of Waitangi. So Te Tiriti o Waitangi is focused on a Māori lens view. And I know that you have to come from the whakapapa Māori to know Māori, to have a Māori world view and perspective on things. A lot of people like this council, like to take advisory information from people and try and fix sometimes a Māori world view on a Pākehā lens view, which cannot be done. I sat on the District Health Board for 9 years, and that was the biggest thing. Whilst they were very encouraging and very keen to help Māori do Māori things, they were always trying to put a Pākehā lens view on things. So this Te Tiriti is a Māori worldview from a Māori point of view that needs to be taken on board. That's why we need diversity on the council, so you can have a Māori worldview and a Māori world voice on the council. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Thanks, Lisa. excuse me, just about all been said tonight. Obviously, two of my former colleagues, Sue Matthews and Monique Gray, both lobbied hard, and they finally got, every time we enter the chamber, the treaty is on the wall behind us. That's certainly a reminder. Obviously, between 1840 and into the late 1900s, there was a lot of things happened really. There were Maori wars, there was world wars, there was nation building, a lot happened, and a lot of views Maori were overlooked. A lot of things happened. Pā sites were taken away to build railway lines. Urupā was separated from marae to build highways. All these actions happened at the time. Obviously in the 80s, and Ken will probably testify, he was there at the time when the government went to sell state assets. There was the challenge there that really triggered it, and it brought that whole principles were established through the law, and they're the principles now that add to the 3 articles of the treaty. I guess the key thing you take from it is to really act reasonably and in good faith, and that's the whole key to the whole partnership really. You know, Matua here talked about the need for the Maori land. We've got James Denyer sitting there. James has worked alongside our Keri solutions, and particularly in wastewater. John Scrim, another mayoral candidate. Welcome, John. He's acted really strongly over there with the river authorities, with the Kaituna River and with the Waiari water and the catchment and the joint Tauranga taking it. So like I said, getting back to the whole thing, I believe we do it. We've got Chris down there who did our karakia this morning, him and Corey and the Kōpapa Māori team, both outstanding young Māori leaders, both with law degrees, really skilled people. They walk in both worlds, the Māori world and the European world, Pākehā world, so they work hard. Is that full time?
That's full time.
Oh, whistle's gone, buddy.
Thank you all very much for your thoughtful answers. Now, we're going to give these lovely people a 5-minute rest just to make sure their vocal cords don't dry out. During this time, the Slido poll, that's slido.com, is going to be open for you to vote on what you'd like for the next question, the Imagine If hypothetical. So you can scan that QR code on the bit of paper you've got there. You can go online and use the event code 2064022. And while these people are having taking a moment.
I'm not allowed to.
No, you're not. The questions themselves aren't on there, just the themes of the questions. While we're doing that, we will invite our 3 Bay of Plenty Regional Council candidates to come up and introduce themselves and say a few words. Jane, Sean and Ken, and they're here tonight, so welcome up Jane Nees.
Can we move there? Because you're behind there.
Do you want to sit here, Jane? You can sit there. I'll take your name away and you can sit if you want. Can you wire up everyone?
If you'd like to, or we can just twist this.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me? Before we start the clock, can I just thank you all for coming out tonight? This is what local democracy is all about. And also I'd like to acknowledge and thank the Western Bay District Council. I think this is a very innovative and interactive meeting format, and I'm very grateful as a regional councillor to have been enabled to come and say a few words. So I'm Jane Nees. I've represented the Western Bay on the Bay of Plenty Regional Council for 5 terms, and for the last 3 of those terms I've been Deputy Chair. I'm seeking re-election again because of the massive raft of rapid change that's coming at us from central government. And I believe now more than ever, the Regional Council is going to need very experienced people around the council table, people that understand local government, that understand the Regional Council and what its mandate is, that understand the region and its communities and what they need. Key issues for me are responding to climate change, protecting and enhancing our environment, particularly our freshwater, our estuaries and harbours and our biodiversity, improving our transport networks, also fighting for strong local democracy and hearing local voices strongly around the council table. And lastly, working very closely with our communities, with our volunteer groups and with our neighbouring councils to help them achieve their aspirations. Now, I could spend a lot of time talking to you about my qualifications, my management experience, my governance experience, but I have developed a website, janeese.co.nz, and I'd love it if you'd have a look at it because you'll learn a lot more about me. For example, my husband and I set up a trust, the Bay of Plenty Youth Development Trust, that does a lot of work in Tauranga to help at-risk youth. But there's a lot more on my website than that. I talk about what I believe in, the things that I stand for, my views on different issues, and also why you should vote for me. So thank you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm told people from over that side can't see, so I'll just stand at the front. My voice has been heard around the stadium and the park and a few other places over the years, so I'm sure you'll all hear me. Good evening. Thank you to Western Bay for putting this on tonight. Thank you all for coming along. My name is Sean Newland. I'm a 50-year-old business owner from Te Puke. I've got 2 teenage children. I'm a keen fisherman. Mātua, if you ever need anyone to go on the boat. Why am I doing this? I believe those with the skills and experience to help a community, if they have the time, they should put themselves forward. So that's my number one reason. I came from a family where service to community is a big thing. I also believe there's a need for a rurally based and aware council candidate on the regional council. I have concerns that the current makeup is very urban based. Regional councils deal with rural issues quite a lot. The big issues of water, land use and adaptation are big for our rural communities, our economic engine, and they're big for us. We don't want people who aren't connected to rural communities making the decisions all the time. Why me? I've worked in resource management for all 30 years of my career. I've held national and regional leadership roles, both within central government. I've worked with every regional council apart from the West Coast around their water plans, their land use plans and restoration. I've led the biggest catchment restoration program in New Zealand through the Waikato River Authority, working over there, $220 million, an 80-year program to restore that catchment. I have had national leadership roles across the primary sector with Fonterra and MAF in the sheep and beef industry through Beef and Lamb New Zealand. I've set up the first sustainability strategies for 2 of those organisations. I know biosecurity, I know water, I know land, I know climate adaptation. Those are all key issues for the regional council. And from a governance perspective, I've been appointed recently to 2 school boards to establish Taumata and Te Manawa Papamoa schools locally. That was for my governance and construction knowledge. I was also the chairman of the National Party for the Bay of Plenty for 7 years for Todd Muller, and I've been on plenty of boards over the years through my career. If you want to find out about me and what my views are, Facebook, Newland BOPRC, or just come and have a chat to me. I've left cards on everyone's chairs. Feel free to email me, ring me, ask a question. I'm here because I think I can add value. And find out a bit about me and hopefully you'll think the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. And finally, we have Ken, who I know also has a strong voice. Where would you like to stand, Ken? Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ken Sherwin. I'm standing for the Bay of Plenty Regional Council. I'm currently the chairman of the Omokara Golf Club and I'm the executive of the Resident Racecars Association. My wife and I live down the bottom of Kaimai Place. We don't have a footpath, we don't have curtain channeling, and we don't have any street lights. And lots more when the neighbours don't want them. So my message, councillors, please don't provide them. We like the darkness, it's nice, so we don't want any of those things. I have a strong belief in the importance of local democracy, and I'm deeply concerned with many of the centralised trends being perpetrated out in Wellington. I'm actually quite worried about what's been happening. My working career, my first working career was as a scientist in water resources and catchment management in the Wellington region and Nelson. Dramatic things have happened there recently. My old job was the water resource management catchment control manager for that region, and I've seen many floods there over the years, but nothing quite like we saw last week. I'm a hydrologist and microbiologist by training, but that's all in the distant past. I've probably forgotten more than I ever learned. But the principles don't change, the tools certainly change, but the principles remain the same. A key role of the Regional Council is resilience against natural hazards, and the Bay of Plenty faces a number of natural hazards. I was the Deputy Chairman of GNS Science for many years, and we specialised in the science of seismology, earthquakes, volcanology, the volcanoes, the geothermal area, of course that is our region, and also land stability. So I've got quite a deep background and sort of work very closely with the scientists, the top scientists in all of those fields. I served as CEO of 4 national industry associations with strong connections to the Bay of Plenty. Firstly, I was the CEO, the inaugural CEO of the Forest Owners Association, and of course the volcanic plateau of our region is the key forestry for the country. I was also for a brief period the CEO and established Organics Aotearoa New Zealand. And we had strong backing with that, actually, from 3 companies very present here in the Bay of Plenty, Vita, Fonterra and Zespri. They had a very strong interest in that. I was also CEO of Medicines New Zealand, and my last role was, up until we moved to Omokaroa in 2018, I was CEO of the Road Transport Forum, which was the freight, the logistic and roading network, the national body. So I had quite a thorough background, and those roading issues are so critical, again, to our region. And I'm a bit aghast with, we're making good progress, but in recent times, that has changed. I'm running out of time, am I? I'm only halfway. In the past, I served as a Member of Parliament over a 21-year period. I chaired many select committees. I was MP for Tasman. I was the Deputy Leader of ACT for the first 9 years of the party. And I was Minister of Fisheries, Agriculture, Forestry and Health at various stages. I'm staunchly opposed to the government's 3 waters proposal. I believe it's a recipe for convoluted bureaucracy, a lack of accountability, and it's a sham ownership model. So I think in the comments we heard here tonight, I fully support those. We've got to turn that around. We've got to put more focus back in the local. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to, oh, excuse me, I'm just going to make a little bit of a noise here. Thank you so much to those 3 candidates from the Bay of Plenty Regional Council. We do have a 4th candidate, Julian Fitter, who will be attending the Te Puke Meet the Candidates event, which is tomorrow night at Te Puke High School, and of course also on the live stream. Julian was unable to attend tonight, but he'll introduce himself tomorrow night for those of you who are watching. Right. Welcome back to the second part of the evening. This one's going to be a little bit shorter than the first part. I hope everybody took the opportunity to vote for the question. I wonder if I can bring it up on my phone. No, it's not coming up on my phone. Do we know what the... Oh, hang on a minute. No, it was. I was just too swift with it. Sorry everyone for the tension. No, it's not doing it now. Madam Adjudicator is approaching from the rear. This is Natalie, everybody. Oh, okay, much closer than last night. So, last night the vote was for Transport and Roads. I can tell you tonight, Transport and Roads got 29% of the vote, Business and Economy 5%, Climate Action 32%, and just nudging ahead on 34%, Housing and Growth. So, the mystery question, the imagine if hypothetical, thank you Natalie, that we're going to be asking our panel this evening is to do with housing and growth. Thank you to all of you who voted and giving us the opportunity to mix it up a little bit. So, the order that we'll do this, I'll start this time with you Matthew, head towards the wall, come back Don, head down and end on Murray. No, I already did that. I ended on you before, didn't I? Okay, I'm going to start with Tracy. You'll be second to last.
I haven't been first.
You haven't been first? Oh, sorry. Okay. All right, we'll do that first thing. Sorry, everyone.
Honest man.
They're getting on so well. It's just lovely, isn't it? You should just vote for all of them. Okay, here is your hypothetical, housing and growth. The cost of housing in Oropi is forcing young families out of the area. That's affecting the long-term sustainability of Oropi School. What strategies would you suggest Council implement to address this issue?
Brilliant, I'll give it a shot. So ultimately what we're seeing here is the effect of 20 years of population growth. This isn't something that has happened overnight, it's crept up on us. You can tell from my accent that I'm not exactly originally a local lad. I've been in New Zealand for 18 years, 15 years in the Western Bay, and what I would say is that when I arrived here, the population was about 4 million. So in 18 years, we've had roughly 20% growth in the population, which has had, that's a central government policy regarding immigration predominantly, and the push-down effect has been on local communities in terms of the impact on everything, health, education, transport, housing, and affordability for young people to get on the housing ladder, raise their families and have the kind of lives that their parents' generation and their grandparents' generation had. It's being eaten away, and it's been eaten away through no fault of local authorities. In terms of addressing it, what can the District Council do? Well, really I think it speaks more to a wider problem regarding how such a small remote country with a relatively small population base, there's only so many taxpayers, there's only so many ratepayers, and the growth has been exponential. I don't think it's particularly been planned for in terms of infrastructure. Growth sounds great, but there's actually only so much you can do. There's only so many beds in the hospital, there's only so many rooms in the classroom, there's only so many places for people to live that they can afford, and we've got an economy that's a bit broken. You've got people that own multiple properties, people that will never own one, a rental trap. You've got people on incomes that don't enable them to purchase housing, and it's not like I throw my hands up and say there's nothing we can do. I think collectively the local government and central government power balance has to be changed. I think we need some more funding for the implications that central government pushes down on local communities. We need some help.
Thank you, Matthew. Tracy, you're up next. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, you're fine, thank you. This is a hard one to answer. And I mean, there is no simple answer. It's unfortunate because obviously I think people, and particularly young people in more rural communities, are getting squeezed, and a lot of this will be to do with the cost of running a farm, presumably, the rate cost, the SNAs that are coming in and being introduced, cost of fertiliser, fuel, everything. I mean, I know everybody's feeling the squeeze, and particularly in the farming situation, I'm presuming mostly. I mean, it's so cyclical as well, and so I do feel for these people. I guess where it's probably going to force people, and this again depends on planning and ability to subdivide, it's probably going to force people to look at doing that more and downsizing, and is that the right thing for the area? I mean, we have to balance obviously production with people's ability to live in affordable housing and situations. And I guess, you know, really what can council do? I mean, in terms of encouraging local business in that area, I guess there's other options. You know, you could always, you know, look at establishing businesses or home businesses or whatever, and those people not being constrained by ridiculous regulations that impede them from earning a decent income. Other than that, I really, you know, it is a problem that we're going to be facing more and more, unfortunately, and there is no simple answer. I mean, I guess there's regional development funds, that type of thing as well. So it's really, you know, it's a problem I can't solve just out of my own head in 5 minutes. It's something I would very much want to talk to the community about and look at, you know, what are the options and what are the ways we can deal with this and what are the barriers that we can break down in a council. Thank you.
Oh, perfect timing. It was just about to go off. Well done. Would you like the question again, sorry?
No, I'm good. So I take a view around the tensions between central and local government again. So 90% of the tax dollar, 90% of the funding that goes to central government, so regional entity is left with 10%. I think the onus is on making sure that as a region, that when central government pushes the levers and the bells to do housing initiatives, that we get our fair share in there. Again, we don't get the lion's share of the money. We're never going to get the lion's share of the money. That's the tension between central and local government. I think it's really important to understand, as a constituent, we have 30,000 people between the ages of 15 and 64, and it's really important to see that they get serviced and that their housing needs are really understood. The context for me in terms of understanding the tension or the clash between institutional thinking and innovative thinking. Institutional thinking is, let's do all the big things that we can celebrate and put up and roll the unicorn out. We did this and this for housing. Innovative thinking looks at where are the policy levers, where are the things that we can change and work with to resource and make sure that there are housing pathways. So again, as one of the rare examples of intergenerational Māori wealth, my family, being 130 years at 36 Ross Road, we have significantly benefited from being homeowners, and it's a shame that we can't in this good country ensure that everyone can have a home. So the first thing I'd do is I'd look at a major regulations and review, so look at the policy regulations and reviews that the council oversee and communicate that back to central government.
Kia ora. I'm just going to read the question again because I think we've only read it the one time. The cost of housing in Oropi is forcing young families out of the area. This is affecting the long-term sustainability of the school. What strategies would you suggest council implement to address this issue? Don.
Great question. I'll give a shameless plug for my Facebook page. Go and have a read of that. I've outlined, if I am the mayor, my committee structure. I've identified housing as one of the key activities. I'm going to make it a key committee of council, so that's enough for plug on that. Now I'll address it. It's good this question's come from Oropi, but equally it would apply to the Kaimai school catchment, to Paispa school catchment. Suare's talked about up at Whakamaramara, the land around there. Te Puna area I live, because the land values have just gone so high. It used to be the largest rural primary school, although we're not really rural, but anyway, the largest rural primary school in the country when my children were there. But they're declining role now because young families just can't get in there. So a waste of resource. Schools are there, they've got extra classrooms. Obviously RMA drives a lot of this, and it's all about the subdivision of land and the protection of land. That's up for review, and 3 new acts are coming into power. So if we thought 1 act was bad enough, we're about to get 3. Jane touched on it before when she spoke. You've got the Natural and Built Environment Act, you've got this Spatial Plan Act, and then we've got the Climate Change Act. So those are all got to be dealt with. When I first got on council, my induction involved about 15 minutes with one of the democracy services, and she gave me a sheet of paper, and I looked after that for years and years, and it was actually How many?
30.
Wow. It was a quick breakdown of the district, and at the time we had 18,000 properties. We've grown to 23,000 properties then, and it showed we had 9,000 residential, we had 6,000 lifestyle blocks, we had 3,000 orchards, we had 500 dairy farms at the time and 500 grazing and forestry. But my answer is we've got to identify the issue. I believe we've got to free up our subdivision or even allow extra dwellings on properties. That would allow more. Is it full time? Jeez.
We got the point though, thank you.
You'll solve it, buddy.
Yeah, well, I love going after you because you're such informative, so I get most of my kōrero off you. But to be fair, I live on multiple owned land, so that's where we can free up some of their multiple owned land to give our young people some of these opportunities to live on their own land. Unfortunately, a lot of land that is multiple owned, you cannot live on it. You have to jump through so many hoops to be able to go and stay on these lands, which then which you whakapapa back to, which then will tie you to the local community and the local schools. Now, all my boys went to Te Puna school. We lived there, we stay there. My youngest boy now is just moved on to TIS, which is in town. But it's all about giving people the opportunity to live on their land, which they whakapapa back to, like our beautiful young lady down the end, that Waka has lived there for 130 plus years, to live on their whenua. I'm not from here, but my beautiful wife is, and that's how I get to live on this beautiful land out Okemoke. That's where people can service that, take their young families there, live on land, be productive members of our society. Unfortunately, there's so many hoops that we have to jump through to be able to get on that land. It's unfortunate. We could cut some of those down, we would be a lot better off. Kia ora.
We have a massive social issue in this country, and it's caused by housing and the lack of housing. If you're earning an income, it used to be 3 times your average income for a medium-priced house. Now it's risen to 12. It's gone up and it's close to 13. And how on earth any young person can ever hope to own a home is really a critical question. And central government has a role when it regulates us blind, just about. And as well as that, we in local government have a challenge as well. We've got a Resource Management Act that is so over-regulated, and I just hope that when the final one comes through, it's a little bit easier for people. But we over-regulate, and local government has a great challenge. We've got to make sure that when we do the review of our district scheme, we do find that there is land that's not productive where people can build houses. Now, under Ross Patterson's leadership, he's here tonight, we had land, and under Nick Smith's legislation, we were able to have affordable housing built in Omokoroa, and we played our part really well there. We have elderly housing for those people who have not got the income, and we're committed there. But for the people of Oropi who've got young children and they want them to go to a rural school and they can't afford to stay there because we've pushed them out by the regulations and the costs that we put on them. As local government, we have a serious job ahead of us. I'm very pleased our CEO is here tonight because he will lead the charge of how we actually make sure that we do everything we can to bring down the regulations, to encourage people, and to make sure that we provide the best helpful service that we can to our community. Thank you.
Beautiful. Anne Murray.
Thank you, Lisa. This is a really, really good question because it plays into all the tensions that apply around the council table. As has been alluded to already, we've got various legislations coming down from on high that we have to abide by. But when it comes to the cost of a house, there's very, very little that a council can actually do about that. And we all know how building costs are going through the roof at the moment, and that is outside, obviously, council's control. Where we can have some input is in the development costs and the subdivision costs, but then you run afoul of other legislation. So we are about to embark on the review of our district plan, and this is one of the avenues that council can do something to allow housing in our area. But there are other things that come into play. Up in Oropi, it's a reasonable distance from other services and shops and whatever. So therefore we have to think about transport. How are the families going to get backwards and forwards? There are a lot of issues that come into play when you're trying to answer a question like this. Tiny houses may be an option because obviously they don't cost as much, and if council allows them on land, then that could bring young families into an area. But again, I say, you've got transport issues. So there's a multiplicity of factors that have to be considered when you're trying to answer a question like that. And that's one of the fun things about being around the council table. Thank you.
Kia ora. I think a round of applause for that very thoughtful round once again. Now we're heading towards the tail end of the agenda this evening, and our final round of questions is going to be a quick fire. I'll invite each of our candidates up to the microphone to answer yes or no only to a series of questions. We're going to start with Mātua, and if you don't say yes or no, yeah, you get disqualified. There you go.
Okay, hold on, let's clarify this. So I can then say yes or no?
Only say yes or no.
Jeez.
No, it depends. No, well, the thing is, yes or no.
Me reo toi te reo Māori o?
If you like.
Kia ora.
Okay, here are your questions. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yes or no answers. First one. Rates increases are important to maintain infrastructure.
Unfortunately, yes. Yes.
There are numerous examples in the Western Bay of co-governance arrangements with tangata whenua that benefit the whole community.
Kau.
We need to be doing more to financially support businesses impacted by COVID-19.
No.
We need to future-proof our economy by diversifying industries away from horticulture.
Aye.
And finally, establish Māori wards.
Kau.
Kia ora. His pain was just visceral. Tracy, you're up next. Tracy, you're up next. That's all right.
We're out of order. I'm often out of order.
Here are your questions. So some of these are the same, some will be different. Your first one. There are numerous examples in the Western Bay of co-governance arrangements with tangata whenua that benefit the whole community.
Yes.
We're doing enough for our community with accessibility needs.
No.
Establish Māori wards.
No.
It's important to address the housing crisis by building up, not out.
No.
The voice of our rangatahi, our youth, should have more prominence in future planning for the district than our elder population.
No, but they're important.
Thank you very much, Tracy. Don, you're up next.
I'm going to what? Struggle?
I don't think you need the microphone.
Don't I?
Just stand
Loud
over there.
voice? Okay.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm
there you
sorry,
go,
I'm
Lisa.
sorry.
Don't
I'm
need
sorry about that. Right, here are Don's questions. Don, rates increases are important to maintain infrastructure.
Yes.
It's important to address the housing crisis by building up, not
Yes.
out. There are numerous examples in the Western Bay of co-governance.
Yes.
Establish Māori wards.
Yes, definitely.
We need to, just checking, We need to future-proof our economy by diversifying industries away from horticulture.
Not our business, no.
Thank you very much, John. Margaret, you go next. True. Right, try not to show your questions. Your first one, establish Māori wards.
No.
We need to be doing more to financially support businesses impacted by COVID-19.
No.
There are numerous examples in the Western Bay of co-governance arrangements with tangata whenua that benefit the whole community.
Yes.
Rates increases are important to maintain infrastructure.
Yes.
And we're doing enough for our community with accessibility needs.
No.
Thank you. You made that look easy. We have Matthew next.
Already want to reject the terms of engagement.
I didn't make the rules, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Right. First up, we need to be doing more to financially support businesses impacted by COVID-19.
Not our role, no.
There are numerous examples in the Western Bay of co-governance arrangements that benefit the whole community.
Yes.
I'm just going to steal this. The voice of our rangatahi should have more prominence in future planning for the district than our elder population.
No.
Establish Māori wards.
Consult.
Yeah, give them consult, eh? We're doing enough for our community with accessibility needs.
Pass.
No, kick him out, he's out. Don't vote for Matthew.
No, he's a politician, right? Okay, Suari. Okay. There are numerous examples in the Western Bay of co-governance arrangements with tangata whenua that benefit the whole community.
Correct.
The voice of our rangatahi should have more prominence in future planning for the district than our elder population.
Correct.
We need to be doing more to financially support businesses impacted by COVID-19.
Incorrect. Not the role.
Yes or no? Establish Māori wards.
Aye. Yes.
It's important to address the housing crisis by building up, not out.
No, I prefer out. Thank you.
Murray. Okay. Rates increases are important to maintain infrastructure.
Yes.
There are numerous examples in the Western Bay of co-governance arrangements with tangata whenua that benefit the whole community.
Yes.
We need to be doing more to financially support businesses impacted by COVID-19.
No.
Establish Māori wards.
Yes.
And it's important to address the housing crisis by building up, not out.
No.
See? That's how it's done. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the close of the formal part of our evening. Ngā mihi nui, and thank you very much for coming along. And thank you to the candidates. Let's give them another round of applause for giving up their time, for behaving so nicely, for getting along with each other, and for making a commitment to local democracy, which you are also doing by coming along here tonight and by watching online. So thank you all very much for that.
And also a big thanks to Lisa for running the shop tonight. Of course we do. Come on. I'm not sure what's sitting here tonight.
Now, there is one really important thing that we don't want to forget, and that's the big day or the big voting period. You'll get your voting papers in the mail from the 16th to the 21st of September. So tomorrow's the 1st, so 2 or 3 weeks away. Voting day is the 8th of October. And Western Bay District Council is, sorry, they hate it when you say Western Bay. Western Bay of Plenty District Council is holding a special, I've lost my place now, it's holding a special poll party on the 24th of September, so once everyone's got their ballot papers, in 6 different locations across the district with all kinds of fun and activities to get people to really come out and vote. So that's a great initiative, especially with younger whānau members. Encourage people to come along and vote, make their mark. You know, you've got some good candidates here, and make sure that people choose who they think represents them. Thank you very much. I imagine some of the candidates will be happy to stay around if anyone wants to have a chat to them afterwards. Maybe, maybe not. I don't want to put promises in their mouths. Thank you all for coming along, and if you're interested, we'll be same time, different place tomorrow, Te Puke High School for the Te Puke Ward. Thank you, everyone. Good.